much. Can you hear me okay? Good. The agenda has about 7 announcements listed, upcoming events and dates of interest. I'm not sure you need me to read them. They're in the agenda, which is posted. Includes everything from Picture Day all the way through upcoming Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. So it's an important listing of upcoming events and dates of interest for us here in Hastings. Right. What we've been doing in this moment is really trying to celebrate some of the good work that's happening in the district. We are looking at how to promote more of all the great work that's happening, and there are 4 accomplishments. I do want to read some of this. Dr. Szymanski may pick up on a little bit in her report. But first off, I want to mention that Hastings High School senior William Mueller. I'm not a rookie for long, but I'll put it to rookie. Was named a tenor alternate for the 2021 NYSSMA All-State in December, and that's quite an accomplishment, as I've been advised, to be at that level. Second, Hastings High School seniors Alexandra Ardita. Am I getting that right, Ardita? No. Okay. I'm just going as it reads. Charles Linder and Bluebell Ward were named National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. So that's to have 3 semifinalists in a district of this size is quite an accomplishment. Then third, Hillside Elementary School held its first assembly today, where they reviewed both the Code of Conduct and Hillside core values. And lastly, we have 3 students honored for College Board National Hispanic Recognition Program Scholars based on their remarkable academic achievements and outstanding performance on the PSAT and AP. And they are Felipe Iglesias, Manuel Iglesias, and Max Mazer. I'm sorry?
Those are good.
Okay. Well, better late than never. So a great range of recognitions here, I think, speaking to the Renaissance nature of Hastings as I'm coming to learn it, both in terms of paying attention to behavior, academic accomplishment, and musical accomplishment. So great news. So those are the district highlights at this point.
Okay, pass it over now to Melissa Szymanski for a report from the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction.
All right, good evening, everyone. So a couple of highlights from the curriculum instruction and assessment realm. As referenced in Dr. McCursey's recent letter to the community, Jeanette Coker, Director of School Counseling, and I have now finalized the Panorama SEL Diagnostic Screeners. Those are social emotional learning screeners in partnership with the building leaders for grades K through 12. This screener will be confidential, but it will not be anonymous so that student support can occur if necessary. Some of the key domains that we will be investigating are student competency and well-being and student supports and environment. Subtopics identified include challenging feelings, emotion regulation, positive feelings, self-efficacy, which is your belief in your ability to achieve, self-management, and supportive relationships. It will be administered at the end of October once students have settled in, and I'll be sending out some more detailed information this week, including some links to the questions that are going to be asked of the students. New professionals. As part of our induction process, new professionals are invited to meet monthly with mentor coordinator Jill Ochacher. And I joined the September meeting, and together we really enjoyed spending time with our new faculty members that occurred last week. Focus areas for discussion at the first meeting included how the transition to the district was going, identifying any specific areas of need that people were having, additional training on Frontline, which is our application that's used for professional learning and also absence management, and preparation for upcoming parent-teacher conferences. Chair Council. Last week, members of the Chair Council came together for our first meeting of the school year, and our discussion as a group centered around an upcoming Tri-States visit, which is going to be happening at our district from March 9th through the 11th. And this is a group of critical friends who are helping us to support an inquiry that we designed. And presently, our team is interested in having this regional group support us in looking into collaboration within the system in terms of how collaboration works in service to organizational success. The teachers, administrators, and I are currently working together. We'll be refining and identifying questions that are going to anchor the visit. So we basically present to them what it is we're curious about learning more about to support us. And our hope is to gain critical insight that will inform our ability to strengthen collaboration across stakeholder groups district-wide to promote a shared vision and also systemic coherence around how we work together. And then over the summer, a team of teachers worked together to identify resources celebrating Hispanic heritage. These resources were recently shared with the broader faculty. The share was timed with the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, which was mid-month. However, faculty have been encouraged to use the resources throughout the year in service to supporting culturally responsive pedagogies and asset-based practice. And I would like to echo Dr. McCursey's congratulations to our New York State School Music Association All-State Selected Tenor, our 3 Hastings High School students National Merit Scholarship semifinalists, and finally our College Board National Hispanic Recognition Program scholars. We're really, really proud of everybody. So congratulations to all of those students.
Can I ask just one quick question? I'm just curious, how does the Tri-State Consortium focus get determined? Is that something that we bring to them, or?
The districts regionally, so the Tri-State Consortium operates New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and it's a consortium of high-performing districts. And districts do bring things to them. And, in our case, I felt that it was very important that we collaboratively establish the parameters of what it is we're looking at, with the end game of ensuring that we're all working together systemically. Our team, the teacher leaders in the district and the administrators, were really interested in more of an outside-of-the-box, non-traditional approach. We wanted to make sure that we were looking at something that could get us into systems thinking, like looking at how different parts of the systems interact. We explored the possibility of different content visits. We felt like where we were in certain things, that if we were to ask a question that we felt like we already knew the answer to, and we really wanted to go out on a limb and choose something that we felt that outsiders as critical friends could support us in looking at different things that would move the systems forward that we didn't necessarily have a quick answer to. So this is the direction that our team, our department chair people, the coordinators who were attending that meeting, the administrators, this is the preliminary thinking around that visit focus, and it is something that districts always select.
Yeah, and having been through this in another district, it's quite thorough. It's quite extensive. It demands a lot of the district. And we'll have a key conversation, Dr. Szymanski and I, with Marty Brooks, who's the leader of the group, to sort of talk through the ideas. And they'll give some feedback right then as to, are the questions focused enough? Does it make the most sense from how they see it?
And they're here to benchmark us. They're actually not here to, having participated on the other end, going to a Tri-States visit, and also having been on a visit team, receiving a Tri-States visit in another location, they're really here to support, and they want to help us with what we would like to look at more deeply. I find that it's a very, very fruitful process. It's very positive, and it's really nice to have people from the outside really coming in and co-inquiring with you and really looking at different things. So we set up the visit. So we have artifacts, we have interviews, and often what districts do is they'll either pick something that they've been spending a concerted amount of time focusing on, or they'll pick an opportunity, so something that they feel will be in service to everything that they can really strengthen. And some districts pick a problem of practice. In our case, we saw this as a really good opportunity to strengthen and to really look at how do we work together, how do we collaborate. And the suggestion that came, I actually really appreciated it because there's research around this notion of, it's something called collective efficacy. So if everyone is working together, it really strengthens the entire system's approach in support of student learning. So that's where we are right now. That was our most recent discussion, and we're still working through and refining, and people are providing lots of ongoing feedback.
I just want to recognize the work of Dr. Samansky.
Melissa's good. Melissa's good.
And Dr. Mackenzie, this is I know that the work that is going on behind the scene in putting all of this together, and the effort of getting the benchmarking piece of it that would sort of make it a great effort to support our students. And I also know this collegial work that is happening with the rest of the leaders in the other buildings, to create that collaborative solution towards a common goal. And I just want to recognize both of you for this initiative.
As I'm reflecting here with all of you, it's not a surprise to me that people's minds went to number one of the tall seven, right? That it's an us, it's the
Correct.
us, and how do we keep that really strong and really centered, and and unpack that a little bit more. So that's where we landed so far.
Okay, can I just ask, regarding the tri-state visits, you mentioned areas of inquiry, is there a topical list of areas of inquiry that they're going to be looking at?
We are not sure yet. The areas of inquiry that will be investigated will come from a series of questions that we ask. So there will be, we're in the development phase right now to sort of unpack where it is we want to go, and what are the kind of like the sub-questions to this notion around, a shared goal around collaborative approach to things. What are the sub-questions?
Yeah,
So we will.
Yeah, Hastings has been a member of Tri-State for a while. I don't think there's been a visit into Hastings in a while.
No, there wasn't.
Been a while.
It was like
Yeah,
3
like
years
3
ago.
years ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
3 years
3 years
ago.
ago they
Yeah,
were here?
it was 3 years ago.
I think the Laddie, the intersection with technology visit was the last one, I believe.
So,
That might be more than 3
yeah,
years.
so they'll work very closely with us. Once we get to a broad question, they'll work to fine-tune it with us to make sure that the team coming in can be productive. And I think we can definitely and should keep the board informed and the community as it proceeds. Often in the interview process, they are speaking with board members, and especially if it's in a sort of systems way. The very intensive look they performed at the previous district was deep into writing. And they looked at, are you a writing district, which we were claiming to be, but they looked at all levels to really see, not just for this, how's that presented, how's it
Oh, that's
exemplified.
Okay.
So I think, I think us giving you updates so you can see what's emerging will be important. And they do produce product. They produce report, they report out, and that's important. And while it's positive, there's some high wire moments for the district, because
Right.
they do some processes where you're sitting and listening to those visitors speak about what they've seen and heard. And they, it's positive, but they'll push.
Definitely.
Okay.
But we'll keep you posted.
Okay, thank you. I
You can
appreciate
go to
that.
tristateconsortium.org to find out more information.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Maureen?
So I'm going to start tonight with still the largest topic we've been dealing with the last few weeks is a transportation update. So transportation continues to be a tremendous challenge and has really particularly been challenging for our families with our out-of-district students. Although there have been many routes that have been corrected, there still needs to be plenty that still need to be addressed. The driver shortage is still the major contributor, but it is further complicated by routes that really aren't as efficient as they could be. Many routes, in just speaking to families, and although I'm still waiting to get some of them, and they're acknowledging that they need to be corrected, it's just that they haven't not gotten there yet because they're so inundated. Ardsley Transportation, who is the lead district in our shared transportation service, has brought in additional outside consultants as they become available to work through these issues with them. Unfortunately, it's just a matter of time, and many of these items do take a good amount of time to fix. Ardsley this week, or I think it was late Friday, had shared with us a Google sheet that they've created to help track the issues by district, and that way also all of that will then go into one sheet so we can really see things as they're coming in. So I think we are going to be sharing that out this week so that we can really have that information all gathered in one spot. And that'll really help us to further guide and prioritize the work, because occasionally with the volume that comes in, there's things that I believe should have been prioritized over some other things that were being addressed. Although it is not currently helping us, many of you have probably read that our new governor is currently working to lessen the burden to bring new drivers into bus companies because of the delays in DMV and different things that also complicate the ability to get more drivers started. Starting this week, we'll be using, one of the changes we're implementing this week is we're going to be using Hastings High School for one particular route as a hub to pick up some of our out-of-district students that instead of going to their homes. The driver mostly for this was that particular route is getting to that school very late. It does have many students from other districts on that bus, but they're servicing the schools in Riverdale, and we really think it's a good idea to use, each school is going to be using their home high school or an elementary as the hub for that pickup. This is, again, something we've talked about for many years, meaning the Quad Village. It's a model that we think is actually a very efficient model. It's right now in order to get children to the school on time, we're going to do it, but I think it'll also serve as a good model for us to understand if that may be something to help us make private school busing more efficient in the years to come. So the parents are going to be notified, and that's how we're going to handle that, because just logistically where many of these students live in the 4 different districts, they're just very spread out, and bringing them to a central pickup, and we think it's reasonable as many students are asked to go to a bus stop, and these are students at the high school level, so we'll be doing that this week. Our in-district routes are still being worked on. Today, unfortunately, some parents here or some in the community may have been incorrectly notified by their drivers that there was going to be a significant change to their in-district pickup and drop-off times effective tomorrow. I was made aware of it, and I called transportation immediately because although there's many in-district changes that need to occur and be corrected, redoing people's routes in the midst of it, I don't think is going to benefit anyone, and certainly it'll just cause more confusion. So we will be sending out a blast later just to clarify in the event that people were notified of some type of change, and I wasn't aware of it, and I don't think to make a wholesale change of a half hour plus to parents in a day's notice is certainly not the direction we want to go in. So we'll be sending out a blast later just to make sure people know that is not happening tomorrow. Reynolds Fields update. So Joe and I have been working over the last week with our village counterparts to address the cleaning and the reopening of the park that's located at Reynolds Fields. After a conversation with them, it was mutually agreed that we would take the lead on that. And Joe's team has been out there cleaning up what they can with the equipment we own, but we had also worked with the village with a restoration company for the fill in some of the area that's contaminated, that's needed. We felt it was better for us, being it was the damage to the property was really caused by the mud that came from our upper field. It was just easier to include it in our insurance claim. So now that we've kind of moved forward with that, there was a little confusion, I think, who was going to take the lead. Initially, the park will be open next week. We did receive our proposal from a contractor today that we submitted to the insurance, but based upon his estimation of the repairs that will be needed at Burke Reynolds Fields. The quote included the rebuild to the culvert drain, as well as redoing kind of the pathway down to the drain in the hopes that, that'll help any type of situation like this occurring again, because there's a lot of debris that gets in there. So it's a restoration and another idea that's being proposed to kind of to ensure that something like that, we hope, doesn't occur again. Also, of course, fixing the drains at the field, the retaining walls, fixing walkways, other site deterioration, resurfacing tennis, basketball, as well as the track. Total estimated cost at this point is a little bit over, I think, about $500,000. And we've submitted that to the insurance. Although the track, if you were to look at it, some of the damage is not noticeable. I think there's concern about the track is adhered to another layer, and with the impact of the water, there's some concern between that and cleaning the drains, that the warranty of the track, that if we end up having an issue in a few years, at that point, we're gonna have a problem. So currently, and actually the insurance adjuster said the same thing. So the idea is that although it looks okay, it doesn't look terrible, the track, once we remove the debris, there's a concern about the condition of the under part of that top layer. So currently, the number one thing we're looking to kind of get moving on, of course, is restoration of the sidewalk in the lower area, so we can reopen the pathways there and the culvert. And then all the other repairs, we would hold off to the spring to make. Construction update, just quickly, Hillside project, again, is moving along schedule. I just wanted to note, there was a shutoff valve that was put on the property last week, and it has to do with the new fire hydrant that was required as part of the new updated fire code, and with the addition of the space there. The placement of the box, unfortunately, was dictated by a number of factors, mostly first driven on the proximity to the utilities that needs to hook onto in the street, and then the other existing utilities that were already there kind of limited the box to two areas. The one that was chosen, which again, I wasn't really given the option, but that was the reason it was put in the plan, was because it was a less costly option and also didn't require trees and other utilities to possibly be impacted. And to get it over there, they would have to go over a gas line. And there was just a lot of, reasons just from an engineering perspective, they felt it would not have been, although maybe not as, it would have been a little bit more hidden possibly. It really, there was other kind of major factors that impacted the ability to put it elsewhere. We will be, once the project's done, we'll do some landscaping around there. We hope that that'll, after a while, it'll kind of like blend into our site. But unfortunately, sometimes I know people may see things and be kind of curious of why they may have been placed there. So just wanted to kind of mention that, as it's something people may notice. Again, we're still on our anticipated completion date of the end of February, early March, so that's good news. The high school music suite is pretty close to being completed, where the new flooring will be installed next week. We'll have an opportunity to tour the space before it's, fully released and reopened. But again, we're hoping that everything will be fully in place by the end of October for our students to return to, and I'm sure the music teachers will be anxious to get back in there as well. The middle school auditorium project is underway. Our 3 contractors have been actively working on submittals and are beginning to mobilize on site. We're super excited to see this wonderful space finally receive the renovations needed to bring it back to life for our students and faculty. And the last item I just wanted to provide an update on is our COVID testing. Tomorrow we'll begin our COVID testing for our non-vaccinated staff. We're offering that in-house to those, I believe. My understanding is that everyone who requires that is opting into having it done here, so I think that'll make it a much smoother process. Our wonderful nurses will be facilitating that for us. And then the surveillance testing program, which is the partner program that we entered into with the Westchester County. We're hoping to begin that sometime next week. Well, we were thinking late this week, but would like to have a little bit of a larger group to kind of get our test, the first amount of testing. They want a bigger pool of people, so I'm thinking maybe we should maybe blast it out as a reminder, just to kind of encourage people to sign up. So, we're happy to be doing that, and it'll either begin late this week or early next week, depending if we can kind of get our numbers up a bit. So that's it.
Thank you, Maureen.
Welcome.
A lot of big topics, so thank you for
Doug, can I jump in
your
there?
hard work.
Maureen, could you
Yes.
clarify something for me?
Sure.
Are our unvaccinated staff, are we switching to a different program, or have they not been tested as of yet? It seems like it says it was going to begin this week. Is that beginning with the new company? Or
No, they'll be getting, we have our tests to do that testing, but just the schedule, like, of, the nurses, like, they just had to kind of set it up in place, and, we needed to just send it out to our staff and make sure we were all set. So, we're gonna be in our in-district program. The other tests, so that's beginning.
Have they been doing out-of-district testing and bringing it to us weekly?
I'd have to ask the nurses that. I
Yeah,
think it
no
was,
rush
yeah, I
on
mean,
that.
we
I
were,
thought,
yeah. I mean, some people may have, but I mean, we wanted to offer it. We just felt it was more streamlined. It's actually almost easier for the nurses to ensure that it is happening.
And the
and-
new type of testing sounds like a pool testing where
No,
they
no,
want
that's-
to get the
that-
numbers, or they just want to have the numbers so that our percentages from one case don't seem to, why would we need to increase the numbers
So,
to get our unvaccinated staff? Because we don't know which students are unvaccinated. It seemed like any student volunteering and unvaccinated staff, we wanted to increase that numbers. Could
no,
you
so I'm sorry,
talk
no, I
about that?
probably convoluted the two. The one is a program that's just to address, for those who are not vaccinated, are required to submit to weekly testing. The second, we were already kind of in motion with, prior to that, because it was something that the county had partnered with, and that is surveillance testing, and it's both for vaccinated and unvaccinated folks. So, either or you can opt into it. I think what they're hoping to do is they feel that, by having a larger pool of people, I mean, I'm sure it's a business, so they probably want to come here and test more people because it's more profitable for them. I'm sure that's one of the reasons, but I guess they're encouraging, they feel that the more people, both vaccinated and unvaccinated, that you have opt-in, the greater chance that they'll be able to catch cases
Yeah, I
and,
mean,
have a better.
It's a basic mathematician, it's a basic statistical
Right.
number, right?
Yeah,
The
no,
the larger your N, because they're
Right.
only gonna test a percentage of that N, so the larger
Right.
we get, then there's a better chance they can
Right.
pick it up.
Well,
So,
if
but
you
I
do
think to
feel
clarify-
like it,
Yeah, please, go ahead.
if you do feel like it, I would, if you wanted another opinion, I strongly would not support encouraging participation of vaccinated students with no symptoms. There's a statistical model that shows it's causing false positives that are quarantining our students, and it happened last year as well. But I know you guys have more on the plate, and if increasing the numbers is something that fits with a different part, but false positives are happening at a rate 20 times as high as catching asymptomatic cases.
Is that
I would.
PCR though also?
Yeah.
Well, we're not
Slide
doing PCR
Slide
testing.
PCR.
We are.
No, but yeah, they are, and what
Yes.
they do is then they retest it. If they get a positive in the pool, then they retest all the samples prior to
We're
doing.
doing PCR pool
Yes,
testing
yes.
and then individual retesting.
Correct. If within that pool, there's a positive, each sample that was in that particular pool, they go back and they retest because they have enough, I guess, matter to put it through another individual PCR test. That's how we were
If it's
told it worked.
something that interests you, I would, be supportive of expressing why I think it's possibly a mistake for our students. Any individual testing of asymptomatic kids took out 22 healthy kids last year.
Yeah, well,
And
I
it
think-
does, PCR tests are only 98% effective still, so
Yeah.
it
But
has an
I
issue.
don't know if the quarantine issue's the same. though.
Yeah, but I think, Jeremy, I mean, these are points really well taken, but I think that's where they've gone back to look, and that's why it's now the NAT or the PCR test, not using any of the others that were maybe part of that. So I mean, it's gonna be
Something to
curious.
Something to consider.
Yeah,
I
no,
can
it's a
share
good
some-
point.
that's good
We-
feedback.
I can
yeah.
share some details from our
Yeah.
community members who work in healthcare centers as
But we're working with the guidance from the state, the county, our medical advisors. We aren't pushing it as strongly as a few of our other quad districts. A few are pushing 100%. We've been a little
Good.
quieter on that.
Yeah, we never wrote that,
But
we just, you know,
PTSA
yeah,
leadership did come forward and asked us to push it more.
right.
Yeah, no,
So,
any families who want it, it's nice that we have it to offer,
Yeah.
I just,
I mean, I was saying it more as like a reminder in the event, because,
Yeah.
you know, we get,
Yep.
we get so
I-
many things, like not so much to push it, but just to see, because we'll conduct it regardless if, even if the number's lower. I think the company said, you know, typically,
yeah.
like they wait for it to get, like, may send it out twice, just because sometimes people don't catch it the first time, so
I
it's
think,
fine.
I would suggest right now, I don't want to undercut the surveillance one, but I think the critical news is we now have in place, as part of the state mandated test or vaccinate, that's strongly in place. We have a great agreement with the bargaining units on that, because frankly, we gave them a favor. It's a very small number, and I think those staff directly
Yeah.
involved with students, it's less than 10 who are not vaccinated. I mean, it's a very small number. And I don't want to go much further than that. So that piece we feel very strongly about. And I think, Jeremy, your cautions regarding the surveillance
Yeah,
program,
makes sense.
those are things we can certainly take into account.
thank you both, thank you, Marie.
I have a question about the transportation. Is there an established communication practice between Ardsley and the school in terms of when there are situations, can they contact parents directly? What is the communication practice over there? Because you said there was something that happened that you didn't know. Were they supposed to
Yes.
okay, so that is the established communication.
Well, something of that. I mean, if it was a small individual change, you know, but to make a wholesale change to our buses, you know, I think it depends. I think there's, if your child was on a bus and they decided, well, that route needs to be moved back 2 or 3 minutes because we're finding when we go past the high school, you know, we're kind of, yeah, that's a reason, like, I don't necessarily have to be in the weeds with it, but like, they were switching like things by 45 minutes, and I'm like, you know, then you're talking about like childcare, you know, even a child that's not accustomed to waking up that early, whether the parent has childcare on one end or the other. So, you know, they acknowledge that we should have something of that, you know, magnitude, that if they should have probably kind of floated it by us, because it's not gonna do, it's really just gonna cause more, it's gonna really come back on that. I mean, certainly wouldn't be in agreement, but it's also, I have to think it's also not gonna help their situation, you know, it's gonna create more, calls and more issues. So I think if we believe that there's an issue and the routes could be more efficient, let's get through where we are, look at them. If there needs to be some changes, then at least if we were to consider changing I would want to send something out well in advance. So, but right now, for all the reasons we've been talking about, they're not, I don't want to because they've been very good, and there's for many years. So they do a good job. This year, I just think just the volume of issues they're having,
More
they're just
drivers,
missing,
yeah.
there's just things that are just, and then also meaning their communication, maybe they missed a step here, you know, and they acknowledged it, and we're gonna make sure that moving forward, you know, we wanna make sure that we're also helping them, that I could also help them with, like, if that's something that they feel very strongly that needs to occur, then we would get out in front of it and give people ample notice to make those changes. And then we would also be able to explain why we're making them, you know what I mean? But, yeah, so that was it.
Thank you.
You're
thank you. I had a follow-up question with regards to just probably the previous board might have known this. Has there ever been a town hall conversation about COVID in terms of the experts talking about it, not with a political spin, just being that this is a school and it's an academic place? Has there been any town hall? I know the colleges, we've had that, where we've invited experts to just let us understand what the virus is, why safety measures are important, just a town hall conversation with students and even with the community. Has it been done
Not on COVID.
okay. So,
Yeah, last year, a number of districts did that, and they quickly moved away from it. And I think this year, there's been less, I mean, it's a very creative question, where there's been less, I've heard no district planning to do that this year. And I think last year, because it was, and you live that here, I know that, I mean, it got so emotional, so upsetting, and it was so difficult to have forums and community gatherings that got anywhere to a constructive place. And I know you had forums here, at least at some level, you did, your superintendent chats, because I've been setting up the next version of those with the PTSA leaders and other SEPTA leaders who were part of that here. My view right now, I don't know if that's where the energy needs to be. I think that the students, the students have been excellent. I mean, the end of my note Friday, the last part of my note Friday complimenting, just because I'm in the building, I see it. Wearing these is a bother, my nose is breaking out, we're all, struggling, but, it's, I mean, we're wearing them, we understand it.
Yeah.
And, so I think it's a very creative question, I think,
I want
collective.
to clarify my
Sure.
question. It's not about the rules and regulations connected to the state, that it's just pure academic conversation. Like, I've had college students that have been confused as to what they should research. So the thought was pure. I mean, probably the emotions are still there for you to sort of delineate it, but it was just pure academic conversations, where even we have medical doctors and research scientists and virologists in this community that could lend themselves to say that, hey, you have a question, I'm here to answer, not about mask. Go right ahead, I'm done, go right
I
ahead.
don't know if Sabine will agree with me, but my strong guess is that the student body doesn't want to hear any more
Of
about
COVID.
COVID and doesn't want to ask any questions. I think, at least for me, and I'm sure, and for my friends and people that I know,
Yeah,
having a strong set of rules and regulations that we can sort of rely on is something that, helps people feel more comfortable, and having that structure is really helpful. So having a forum for conversation and understanding better, and sort of, that might actually cause more stress than.
got it,
Following the rules.
got it. So the school students are different from, okay.
well put.
Our college students wanted to understand it from outside of the news.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, agreed.
Okay, I want to make sure we keep moving along here. We'll move to student report to Sabine and Gus. You have hopefully some great positive stories for the first full week of school.
That's right.
All right, so Hastings girls soccer dominated in 2 games against YMA last week, advancing their record to 5-1. We also have 2 home games this week on Tuesday and Thursday. It would be great if we could have lots of fans in the stands. Boys soccer secured a 2-0 win today against Albertus Magnus. The high school band is preparing for their pep band performances at 2 upcoming football games this October. The student union is working on plans for homecoming, which is less than 3 weeks away, if I'm correct. We are also changing the formatting of our meetings slightly so that the grade representatives can share about the goings-on in the hopes that each member is more in touch with what is happening around the school. As October approaches, many seniors are feeling bombarded with college applications on top of schoolwork and after-school activities. Lots of people are trying to power through these next couple months and complete applications so that we can get to the so-called fun part of student.
All right, so girls cross country won the Fred Gredler Invitational at White Plains High School, which is a really, really big meet. And freshman Caitlin Thomas came in 2nd place overall, which is huge. Hastings junior Vivian Smith is up for the Low HUD Field Hockey Player of the Week, another big honor. Writers on the Buzzer are beginning to craft articles for the first edition this school year, and all the managing editors are beginning to meet with the new writers and start working them through the process. The cast of Hastings' production of the complete works of William Shakespeare Abridged is working hard to get the show ready. I know today they started rehearsing at 3:15. They're gonna be here till 9 o'clock, so they're working their butts off. And then Hastings, our varsity football game against Dobbs was called off Friday night after the first quarter because a light went out at Springhurst. So that was kind of a bummer. And so signups for the PSATs are out for juniors. So that's sparking a lot of talk about the SATs and the ACTs, and that kind of college frenzy is starting a little bit. So I think that's stressful for a lot of the juniors and people really diving into the year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Okay, public comment. Does anybody have? comment? Going once, going twice, okay. Moving right along. Okay, business items, so under 7A, we have 10 items today. Does anybody have any questions about the items under 7A? Excuse me, yep, 7A. Do I have a motion to approve items 1 through 10, business items under 7A?
So moved.
And a second?
Again?
All in favor?
Aye.
Melissa, did you get that vote? You did, okay. Alrighty. 7B, placement for CSC or CPSC. Do I have a motion to approve these placements? A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, personnel, we've got 4 appointments, 1 retirement, 4 resignations, and 4 leaves of absence. Does anybody have any questions or comments under personnel 8 through D? Appointments, retirements, resignations, and leaves. It's nice to see these lists are smaller than last year.
Doug, if I might just comment here, the board had been generous enough a couple meetings ago to give the flexibility up to the count of 4, and we've been quite judicious with that. So there are a couple here that we said we can structure it still to be fully supportive of the students, but make sure the board gets to do its due diligence and review and vote. I would recommend going forward, and maybe that's, that Hastings does consider and look at that procedure and policy as it relates to the role. But we took seriously that it was an exception you had provided the administration, and I don't know that we've actually used one of them, but we definitely, there is one here that we debated, but we felt we could, if you indeed you do vote tonight, that person could be here just as fast. So again, we wanted to respect the board role as currently structured.
And I think that, which you actually alluded to, that just giving that clear understanding of the hiring practices was really good, and you've not really received any query from the community about it ever since. So, I mean, it's just a matter of letting them know, and I think it's a good thing. Yeah.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve 8A through D under personnel? All the appointments,
So moved.
retirements, resignations, and leaves? So moved?
Yes.
Second? Okay.
Second,
Second,
yeah.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Minutes from the September 13 meeting. Does anybody have any questions or clarifications for those minutes? Yeah, thank you, Melissa. These look good, very good. Do I have a motion to approve minutes from the September 13 meeting? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there's committee reports from the policy committee.
I did ask, yeah.
No, do we have
Sorry.
slides or?
Yeah,
no?
the slides are
There's
there.
slides.
Yes.
We don't need them.
They're in the,
Oh, okay, fine, fine.
Yeah, no, but yeah.
I'm gonna take this off just so I can speak. So on September 15th, the policy committee had our initial meeting with Keenan Bean and Susan Volpe, and that was to discuss the policy audit process. And that is driven by NYSBA, which is the New York School Board New York State School Board Association. They drive a lot of the policies that we adopt as a district, and they have an audit that they've done, that they started in November 2020, that was of about 275 of their policies. That's required statutory policies and ones that they suggest. And when they did that, following that, they divided the policies into 4 buckets. And of these 275, about 20% what they termed as likely to be cut, 20% merited review and revision, another 20% were ones that NYSBA themselves had changed or updated their sample policies, which districts often adopt wholesale or use as a basis for their own policies. And then about 40% were just acceptable policies, as is. In addition to that sort of 60% working group, there were 17 policies which were new or missing. That was sort of the scope of their audit and recommendations that they give to us. So I know the previous year, what Ms. Volpe explained to us is that those 17 new and additional policies were tackled first. Those are done. And then the plan is to work with the most important buckets, which are the review and revise and the updated NYSBA samples, because that's the stuff that affects us most proximately. And those would be, some of the things we talked about were like, there was one policy that had to do with videotaping or taping, and that's something that would have to be updated to accommodate, changes in technology. There was another example where we were kind of using a policy that was directed about talking to the media to cover some things that we'd like to cover with regards to social media. So it's sort of an awkward fit, and I don't know which bucket those go into, but that's an example of the kinds of things that they're doing. So Kina Bean outlined this is about a 2-year process. We're planning to handle about 6 policies at each meeting. If you look at the buckets that are under work, it's about 101 policies, about 17 meetings, till we would theoretically get to the end of it. The report also detailed that there are, that first bucket of 20% that's going to be cut. Even though those are rescissions, we can't just do them all at once, because they're still work. Because if a policy is being cut by NYSBA, not all policies are required. So if a policy is being cut, first of all, we need to know, before we can rescind it, we need to know if we have it. And then oftentimes districts will keep a policy even if NYSBA doesn't recommend it. So then if we do have a policy, we need to make sure that we have the apparatus and the personnel to actually follow the policy. So that's why even the rescissions are some work. And she spoke about how we conduct the review. Initially, it's getting in touch with the personnel and departments that pertain to the policy. And then there's a redlining done of either the sample policy or the existing policy with the consultation. Once that's done, it moves to our policy committee where we discuss it. And then most likely it passes to the full board discussion and then vote. So it's, every policy is public record. Then we just talked a little bit about some of the work that they do, not directly with policy, but aligning verbiage and, just sort of little nuts and bolts. And then we discussed, the last page of that document discusses I think there are only 5 policies listed there, but just a sample of the policies that we'll be working on in our first actual substantive meeting. That was it.
Yeah, she was very emphatic about saying that the missing was not really missing. It's actually scattered elsewhere so that the people don't assume that they are missing.
Right, and those 17 were already completed,
Correct.
new and missing, correct.
Correct.
So I don't know much more than that, but if anybody has a question, I'll try my best.
That's great.
Thank you, that was
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a lot of heavy lifting to just go through those, so thank you. Okay. Go back to board now. So we have under 11, new business policy 5300. I know that Dr. Kersey and Melissa Delabrera did some checking with legal counsel regarding voting, and our practice has always been to do 2 reads of, and I think I guess there is some mechanism, which I didn't even realize, that you could theoretically do one read. I think it's probably a poor practice, so we'll come back for the second read of 5300 District Code of Conduct next board meeting, and we'll vote on that, so we'll pass on that for now. And now we are on to second public comment. Anyone for a second public comment? Okay, so just want to open up for Board of Ed comments. Does any board members have comments?
Can you elaborate on the new business a little bit more?
Well, we read that. That's the code of conduct.
Oh, okay,
So,
we-
yeah, so how
okay.
it works so that the public is aware of any policies you're changing is you read it at a first meeting, it's called first read.
Correct, I know.
Read and discuss, and then we vote at the second read.
So you
Okay.
moved this agenda item at the very beginning,
We
correct?
put that up to
Okay,
the
got it.
beginning,
So I
yeah.
wanted to-
Well, it was, I think there are, and Maureen, you might know more about this, and I don't know, Melissa, if you know this yet, there are some policies that require public hearings.
Correct.
And
Yes.
others do not.
Right.
Code of conduct is one, there's a couple more.
Yeah, there's a few, well, there's some that require hearing, then there's some that are yearly required for the board to
Right.
review and readopt and then allow people feedback. There's like five of those that, I think we had them on the reorg. And then the only other hearings that I can think of off the top of my head are not related to policy, but are safety plan and budget hearings and things such as that.
Right.
And do we know, I'm sorry, probably I should have known this, but when was this made available to the public?
When it was
You know, at
posted.
least 4 years.
When it was
Was it
posted on
posted?
Friday.
Yeah.
It was posted on Friday?
No, it's been on our website for a month.
It's been on our website for a month, and there was a notification that went out in the newspapers too, to notify
Right.
Got
everyone
it.
that there would be this hearing, and that'd
Okay.
be posted for a month on the
Okay,
website.
thank you.
It's,
Doug, could I-
is it 30 days? Is that it's a 30-day requirement, so the capital
That's,
bond
that's
is
what
the
I was
same
looking
thing?
for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I
thanks.
ask just a timing issue, either if you could direct it to, you think, and thank you for posting it 30 days early, and you might have missed it in the enterprise. We've gotten a public comment from 50% of our audience, and we also had received an email. If there were any decisions by administrators to make adjustments, do they have to be a significant adjustment to cause for another first read and another second read? Is our only real choice to vote it down? It sounds like Bill's gonna take this one.
Right.
If it's a small one, like eliminating hair color or changing nails, or we had an interesting email from a community member about, updating definitions. Would that cause would that cause a first read to be redone and reset us up with another 30 days?
Well, yeah, I did talk to council today, as you would hope we would, just to make sure we're doing this exactly right. So that was the reminder that first, second read is preferred, but you could be in an emergency situation where you need just to do the one. But council is recommending you not do that, so it's good that you're doing the two reads. There are aspects of this that are driven by statute. There are aspects of this that are driven by policies and because it's a code of conduct that needs to have a disciplinary side to it. And once you do that, you need to make sure the language lines you up for appropriate and effective discipline. So I think you as a board, even if it were to delay it, you want to do it right. So, and I think council would say do it right. So at least the comments that came in earlier, I have shared those with council on a what if, to say, not sure where the board is on this, but could you look at these? I mean, conceivably what was heard tonight, could share those too and say, where do those line up with any of the legal requirements? Because like it or not, if you're not lining up with statute and the other language issues, you could put yourself in a corner when it comes to the disciplinary pieces. I don't want to comment on the public comment, but there was a good question there regarding, which prompts me to send that piece back to council, because there's been a recent state ruling as it relates to hair. And so we may have a problem here. So I think, so
If we
I want to be cautious, because in every school board meeting, you got to work with the agenda. but I think I did hear something that means we need to go back and do some checking. But we could move pretty fast, but I think it might push you into a new first read.
Yeah, that's-
But you want to do it right, and I think,
at the moment, if we don't enact the, code of conduct policy, is it sort of grandmothered in? The old one
Yes.
stands until we
Correct.
vote, so the
yes,
rush will come.
yes, so you're not
Thank you
flying
for-
without.
Thank you for looking into it, guys. and
Yeah, thank you.
for,
Yeah, we have to take our time. with
Great.
it.
thank you.
My only question regarding the code of conduct is that the only departure I noticed from September of 2020 to this version was the designation of the DASA officers. Is that correct? Because in the previous incarnation, it was you, Melissa, and now we have you listed as well as the 3 respective vice principals for the district. That was the only, other than when I compared September 14, 2020, and this, what was shared with us, I didn't see anything other than that
Yeah,
in terms of redlined items.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to.
I think
look.
that was
The one
like-
in board docs. I'm just trying to look. I know last year we made some changes regarding remote learning
Right,
specifically.
but that was,
constituted.
this is similar to that. It has the same,
Yeah.
that was
it
the same
minimal
highlighted portion.
changes.
Right.
And
But
There
that's what I'm
is-
saying. This
yeah.
version, the only difference I saw was the additional 3 officers. So
There
I was
is
wondering if that's,
concern, sorry, yeah.
that's it. That's all.
if I may, just on the is this the document that where we did adjust the remote learning language, or was the other? Yeah, so we
Remote
did
learning-
in this version before you did have an adjustment for remote.
Yes,
language,
in
and I had
September
asked to
14th
make
of
sure that-
2020. It
yeah.
had remote learning then,
Yeah, and that
but it
was-
only had 1 DAS
Yeah,
officer.
and that was adjusted again for this version,
Correct.
and we did double check that with council
Mhm.
to make sure we were being consistent. Again, I'm sort of being neutral on the earlier public comment. I think the hair ruling came in since this has been developed. So
I think that's
I
right.
think that's reason to go
So that
back.
wouldn't have been incorporated into the
Yeah,
version that we
I think
received.
that could be a pretty important catch.
That came in as an amendment under the Dignity Act, actually, as a
Yeah, and
new
that was,
piece of guidance for
But that
us.
was like within the last couple of weeks,
I
I
think,
think.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so that would be, in the least, so that may extend it out. And now here's a question for you. I mean, I think having it in a public meeting for the first read again would be important, but we'll dig in and we'll let you know.
And I just want to add that there is a concern about DASA. Like I said, we have community members that have to work a lot of jobs, so they can't come here and air what they want to air. So it's just the schedule doesn't work out for them that way, or some of them are not English language speakers, they can be sending emails. So there is that concern about DASA. And I know there's some improvements that have been made, but it's just something that people want to look at it more closely, because that's why I had to do the search myself to confirm whether the announcement was made. But I think we shouldn't rush it. We should take our time and look at it
I think
closely.
these are all really, really good points, and I think we've got emails, we've got public comment. I think, because there are some potential changes to language that you could deem significant. I don't know if there's a percentage change in the legal community that requires another first read, but I think we can also make that a judgment call on our own. And we'll go back and look at some of these, post it again, and then, we can, take that meeting as it comes and potentially consider that a second first read or a second read and go into a third read. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't mean to belabor this point, but when students are put on DASA, it goes far, right? And so it can't be an easy process that would tarnish an individual who is just starting their life. So a lot of parents, so far as I'm concerned, even before running for the board, are concerned. It's been one of the main concerns about who gets on DASA and how. And I know there is specific laws that is allowing the process, and I know Hastings is doing that in the correct way, so I'm not diminishing that, but I think it's something that we should look at again more closely. Yeah.
Okay, and it seems like it was going the direction that we may do 3 at this point, because there have been several comments. So we'll take that as it comes. Further Board of Ed comments?
Just really sort of a question, because the storm and everything, I've seen so many photos of the damage. It's kind of like a stress test of our insurance policy, and so I'm just wondering if the experience of dealing with insurance has been okay, and you feel like we recover things, or is there anything we should maybe consider doing differently? You know, any of those sorts of things.
I mean, the current provider, it's a consortium that most districts, many districts in New York State are participate in a kind of consortium type insurance. And our experience has been very good with them. I think, you know, although, because we are part of a consortium, like certainly like we don't put things through like frivolously, like, because we all, like that hurts us all, but we do have good coverage. Our coverage, we go through each year, well, I go through with our point person, and we review, you know, the coverage needs and things that may have changed, and making sure that everything's captured. So when we did the last capital project, like things, when there's changes like that, although there was a field there, when there was the enhancement to it, we wanted to make sure that that was captured in our policy. So I think they do a good job in ensuring, or, you know, coming out, and they come out, they're pretty accessible, and they do come out whenever we need them to, and they also check in, and that happens regularly, and like I said, it always happens once a year. So the short answer is, I think we're well covered. We'll see whether they honor the claim, then may have a different response. I think they will. I have a sense that, based upon the adjuster's comments, that he felt that much of what we sustained would, you know, all be covered. I mean, of course, they can't guarantee you of that when they go back, but we do have flood insurance, and there's different pieces that they just have to, you know, make sure that, you know, being everything was fairly new, I think they know that it was in good condition, you know, prior to the storm. But I think the one piece that we want to make sure with the repairs are things that we may want to enhance to ensure that, you know, that a future situation like that, because there's really the failure of the culvert in the back that created, you know, that caused the majority of the damage, you know, and that's the piece we really want to focus on and make sure that, and if there was, I even had said to Joe, if it was even something we wanted to do beyond, like, you know, just, that's kind of, we're going beyond what existed to kind of, so that may be a piece, you know, that they may want to say, well, we don't want to cover that, but
Okay.
really, you know, we'll see whether they do or not.
Okay.
So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
I'll jump in for a comment. Try to hit all the stakeholders here, but September's wrapping up, and I wanted to express my view from the board. I think the leadership team here, the leadership team you're working with, have given our district a really great start to the year. A nice September. Throw it out to the students over here, guys. I hope it is positive, not just the victories, but the days and hours you're in the building. It senses from an outsider's view that September was a really, you know, positive experience. And then, of course, while I don't interact with them at all, we'd love to express our gratitude to the staff and the teachers that gave our community a successful September. So, top to bottom, bottom to top, whoever was, but thank you for a great September.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
That's great. A good wrap-up, Jeremy. Thank you. And one last comment. We have, just a reminder to the board members who all know, but the public as well, we've got on Wednesday a goal session where the board is talking about goals for the year, many of which are obviously already underway, but just as a way to kind of codify them. That will be a public meeting. We'll do it here. That will not be a video recorded meeting, but a public meeting, because it's a working session. Please.
Melissa's done a great job, Melissa D., to get materials organized for you. And indeed, on the sort of home page, if you will, on board docs, you now have posted the draft Board of Education meeting topics, which 3 tiers is current as of today even. Thank you. But let me quickly explain. You got an email today, late today, from Melissa with an agenda that Doug and Allison had approved. And it's, if just want, there are 3 documents we hope you can look at and hopefully you can find them. If you can't find them, Melissa will help you get there. But there'll be some buckets that Doug will introduce. for thinking about goals for you then. I thought it was really important to update you on the work the leadership team's doing already, to say here are their goals as they see it for the year that they're underway on, both academic and SEL and what we might call operations. So that's in one document. There's a Venn diagram. The first part is the academic and the SEL. If you go all the way to page 5, you get the operations. They're just headlines. And then there is another document related to some work the professional learning committee is going to do, just to let you know that. I just thought as you got into goals discussion, having a sense of what the leadership team's been thinking could be very helpful to you. And that's about as much as I'll say Wednesday night on it, but I just wanted to kind of introduce it now, so you're ready to really dig into it, because this is a chance for you as a board to talk and think, but I just want you to get a sense of where the leadership team is as you get into that discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to recognize the website. I see the changes. It's really
Well,
good.
Step by step.
Step by step.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So
All in favor? Or second? Excuse me. Any seconds?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.